Hello, and welcome to Reawaken the Dream, a course for the writer mom or anyone who has to write in small fragments of time because you can't sit down and write for hours on end. This is the course where we give you some very practical tools that make it possible for you to write with continuity across those broken time periods. Right now, we're working on the character profile tool, which gives you the power of living characters. We are in lesson 23, our 18th character trait. So if you're new here, you might want to start back a little earlier. We've got a great adventure, so catch us up. We, as always, will begin with a brief review of the trait we studied last week. Our trait last week was meekness. Meekness is a balance trait, which means there are going to be two possible loss states, overdoing or underdoing, which is the characteristic of a balance trait. We said that our animal model was the mother animal taking care of young, because the very definition of meekness is that you're focusing on others who may have need of you, and you yourself are remaining calm and tranquil. So it has an aspect of focus and an aspect of mood. The lost state of meekness, on the one hand, is losing your temper. If you lose your temper, that is a loss to the chaos side. You have lost your tranquility. The other side, the rigidity side, is you collapse inward into self-doubt, and you can't look at the needs of others because you're too busy worrying about how you are handling the situation. Well, today we are on to another empathy trait. And this empathy trait doesn't need a huge amount of introduction because I think we all have a pretty good idea of what we mean by gratitude, but it's going to open a new subgroup of empathy traits for us. So let's, without further ado, get going on the scenarios so that we can put our emotions into play with the character trait of gratitude. Gerald was quite the con man. Ho, 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 ho. He had rounded up a powerhouse team of really dedicated people, and he took their good reputation, their good name, and their history of service in the community and used it to collect some pretty big dollar donations that he didn't bother telling the volunteers he was getting. Oh no, he had them going off with a little collecting tin, getting small donations, and dutifully turned them in as well. Had no idea how much money Gerald had collected. Well, Gerald was congratulating himself. Ha ha ha. He had no thought of all the work these people had put in to prepare this event that was coming up. No, 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 no. He was going to be off down the road. So he gathered up the $20 bills out of the funds they'd collected. He left the little stuff behind, stuffed it in his pocket, tore Gemma's poster off the wall, folded it up neatly. That was going to be his souvenir of the great job he had done conning these people. Gemma, it would do her some good. She'd learn a good lesson. It would toughen her up a bit. He was headed down the road. Gratitude, the lost state. Gemma pulled into the parking lot, excited to see that Gerald's car was still there. She was worried that she'd missed him. She really, really wanted to thank him for including her in this wonderful project. And my goodness, she never properly thanked him for choosing her poster to represent the event. She was feeling really bad about that, so she was super excited to catch him. And she had a couple of questions that she was going to use for her reason to come back, but the real thing she wanted to do was to be sure to thank Gerald for all the hard work he had done in organizing this event. Gratitude, the victory state. Kathleen curled herself up on her bed tucked her knees up to her chin, and pouted. Honorable mention. Honorable mention. She was sure the outfit that she had made would win, hands down. The local branch bank, where her parents did their banking, had a contest. They handed out dolls, kind of like a Barbie doll, and contestants created an outfit for the dolls, and then the dolls would be given to local area children who weren't going to be getting toys that Christmas. Well, Kathleen poured her heart and soul into a skating outfit that she was just sure that nobody would ever be able to top. She was sure she was going to be the winner. She didn't care about the prize. She just wanted to be the winner. But no, honorable mention. Gratitude. The lost state. Margaret told Vern, Kathleen's in there pouting. She didn't win. She got honorable mention. Oh dear, thought Vern. She's very much the ambitious gal, isn't she? Ha! Ambitious? Margaret said. Remember that summer when she spent the whole summer long practicing the same sonata? I thought we were going to go nuts. She was convinced she was going to be a concert pianist. For heaven's sake, she can't even reach an octave on the keyboard. Oh, I better go talk to her, Vern said. Vern came in and sat down and had a good talk with Kathleen. Little did Kathleen realize that that conversation was going to be a major turning point in her life. Her father talked to her about a very, very important concept. How much is enough? He said it's okay to have wildly ambitious dreams. Nothing wrong with that. Try them out. Don't be afraid to test it out. Walk the path a little bit. Does it still seem like a good idea? If it still seems like a good idea, you're almost ready to go for it. But wait. Before you commit to that wild and crazy goal and make it as crazy as you want, you should first sit down and write out how much is enough. Because, as he told her, when you get to be a grown-up, the challenge isn't going to be that you're going to make crazy goals you can't reach. The challenge is going to be that you're going to make crazy goals and you do reach them. And then is going to come the temptation to push the goals out farther and make them more challenging. And the moment that you do that, nothing will ever be enough. Gratitude, the victory state. Okay, the analysis of gratitude. Gratitude is an empathy trait. It's a little bit of an interesting one, and we'll see that as we go along with the analysis. The animal model is a classic tale of the lion with a thorn in its paw, where the kind gentleman, be it a saint or what, pulls the thorn out of the paw of the lion and then faces the lion at a future time, and the lion, in gratitude, will not harm the star character. So, what is the struggle of gratitude? Because gratitude's a rather interesting empathy trait, because an empathy traits are involved with relationships with other people. And yet, a huge portion of gratitude simply takes place in the heart. Gratitude, the struggle of gratitude, is a struggle to notice the good things that you receive from others, to feeling that state of gratitude, and to expressing the gratitude to those to whom you owe that gratitude. The lost state is not noticing or not feeling, or not expressing the gratitude that you really owe to someone. And in a sense, if you don't express the gratitude that you owe to someone, you're taking advantage of them. And that is the real problematic lost state of gratitude, because now you're damaging the relationship. When you start taking advantage of people, you are damaging the relationship. Victory, obviously, is noticing, feeling gratitude, and expressing the gratitude to those to whom you owe it. But can we say here, what does being taken advantage of? Where does that fall? Is that a part of gratitude? And the answer is no. Being taken advantage of is suffering an injury. The character traits are all about behavior, what we do, what our characters do. So what happens to us, we respond with our whole selves. So how we respond to being taken advantage of will call into play other character traits, but it is not a subset of gratitude. Because gratitude is an empathy trait, there's one and only one modifier, and that's scale. And scale has to do with what's at stake. So, what is at stake with gratitude? The struggle for gratitude, what's up for grabs? With empathy traits, we always say it's the relationship that's at risk. But gratitude begins in the heart. Attributes that take place in the heart are generally balanced traits. So why do we say that gratitude is an empathy trait and not a balance trait? And the answer is, again, that what is at stake is our relationships. Gratitude, we're not going to compare it today to other traits in the empathy group because it starts a new subgroup. So when we get other traits in that same subgroup, we'll start comparing and contrasting them. But for now, that's all that we'll have to say about the empathy group today. Last week, we began a comprehensive review of the character profile tool, and we said that we want the character profile tool so that we can store emotions and retrieve them quickly, so that our reader understands the motivations of our character, and so that we can understand the transformations that are possible for our character and motivate them within the story. That will enable us to show a character who is alive, who reveals themselves, and who is on a journey that's capable of inspiring others. And towards that end, last week, we gave a comprehensive review of the character profile diagram, what the different levels of awareness are, and what it means for a character trait to be in one of those awareness levels. Today, we're going to focus on the memory prompt list and how the memory prompt list works with the character diagram to place the character traits onto the diagram in a way that we can recall the emotions that caused us to place the trait where we put it. And this is going to turn out to be very, very, very powerful to get back into the emotions of our story very quickly. So let's see how that works. We'll cover it next lesson. We'll cover reference sheets, which we'll use to deduce a character profile for a character we have in mind, and we'll talk about character transitions. But today we're going to focus just on the memory prompt list and placing character traits on the character profile diagram. So I performed a fun exercise that I recommend very, very highly to you. We already have 18 character traits. We have 5 levels of awareness. We have males or females, and we have a number of different ages. So I did a whole randomization thing where I randomly selected a character, man or woman. It came up woman. Age range could have been anywhere from child to teen to young adult, all the way up to senior citizen. It came out in 40s, middle age, 40s to 50s. So I gave her a name, Athena, and I pinned her age at 47. We're in lesson 23. So this is the memory prompt list. So it's part 2. The character traits that came up randomly, and I really did this using the rand function in Excel, so I didn't cheat. They were constancy, moderation, self-control, kindness, and docility. And then another random function placed them on the character profile diagram. And when I show you this character profile diagram, you're going to know that I didn't pick it out. Here is where those traits go for Athena. Constancy as a base trait, kindness as a pinnacle trait, docility as a wing, moderation as rudder, and self-control as a base trait, as an anchor trait. So we are going to have the job of placing these traits in these positions on the character profile diagram. And if you'll remember, the memory prompt list has the job of logging a little micro scenario that explains for us why that trait got to be there for that person, so that we can connect back up with that character very, very quickly, and so we can understand their psychological history. So this is a little bit wieldy to go back and forth between. So I'm going to take each of these and show them on a separate card. So each one of these cards will be like a line on the memory prompt list. So let's get started. Constancy is a base trait. So how could constancy become a base trait for Athena? And remember, our job when we place these is either to come up with a circumstance in our character's life that made it go there, or else illustrate a very typical occurrence of it, so that we could connect emotionally with constancy being there at a base trait. And so what I came up with, first of all, I'd like to invite you to hit pause. Each time we come to one of these, hit pause and come up with a scenario for yourself. Why do you think Athena has constancy as a base trait? Go ahead and hit pause and think about it. Okay, now I'll share with you what I came up with. I came up with the idea that Athena has a motto that she tells herself: steady, 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 steady. And she's gone through life and she's discovered that if she isn't flashy, if she doesn't get too well known too fast, she can perform exceptionally well, and nobody even notices her until she's won the day. Constancy. Next up, self-control in the anchor position. Go ahead and click pause and come up with why you think Athena has self-control in the anchor position. Are you back? Okay, I'll share with you what I came up with. Well, I decided that constancy being heavy down here and struggling with moderation, I decided that self-control probably is in that negative sense of anchor where it's weighing you down. And I decided that Athena's model is no jokes and no play. You don't get where you want to go if you have any humor in your life, or if you waste any time on recreation. Constancy, constancy, steady, steady, steady. Nothing flashy, nothing fun. Self-control. What about moderation? What scenario would you give Athena for moderation in the rudder position? Pause. Okay, welcome back. Here's what I came up with. I'd love to see what you came up with. Why don't you share your ideas in Writing in the Chaos? It's our Facebook group, and you can find the link to it in the description below. Moderation. Okay, so it's a rudder trait for Athena. That means she's kind of aware that she can get out of balance with moderation. And but for her, the balance is task A versus task B. She's a little concerned because if she goes overboard on task A, she might not have enough time left to do justice for task B, so she struggles with moderation. Never the balance between work and play. Okay, next up, docility. Pause and come up with a scenario for why Athena might have docility in the wing position. Pause. Okay, welcome back. I'll share with you what I came up with. Docility. I have it that Athena grew up in a household where there was constant screaming. People didn't talk to one another, they screamed at one another. Thankfully, it was just screaming, no violence, thankfully, but just day and night, all the time, people just screaming at one another. Well, that's why she doesn't go for anyone for advice. Who would she go to in her family for advice? She just gets screamed at. Oh, now that explains a few more things. That's starting to explain why all she wants to do is work and stay out of sight and not be flashy. That explains why she wants to be hyper self-controlled. She doesn't want to attract any of that screaming attention. And it shows also why the only thing she's ever gotten that was positive in her life was the kudos she got for performing her tasks well. And so her struggle for moderation is, if I do too much on task A, will I not get praise for task B? Because that's her only joy in life, is the praise she gets for her work. No wonder docility is pretty non-approachable for her. Okay, last up, kindness. Kindness. Pause the video. Come up with what that means for Athena to have kindness in the pinnacle position, and how did that get there, and what does that mean for her? So pause. Okay, welcome back. Here's what I came up with kindness. I came up with Athena is not, I don't see her as being cruel. She's obviously not kind, it's in the pinnacle position. But I see Athena as just plain being oblivious to the existence of others at all. She's had to spend her whole life tuning out those screaming people in her family, and as a result, she just tuned out everybody. And all she does is do her work and live her tiny, narrow life. So that's a review of how we place the character traits. When we're done, we should be able to walk around the character profile tool. Constancy. Why does she have this? She just struggles, always to just do the work nonstop. Self-control. Yeah, she's very rigid in her tightness about herself. Moderation. A or B, A or B. Ah. Docility. Ooh. Not those screaming people, no. Kindness. People? What people? I don't see any people. Okay, so that is our review of how placing character traits works. And when you sit down to write, you should actually be able to touch each of these character positions and bring back Athena's emotional state just by revisiting these words. You should be able to actually call up the feelings or the emotions that Athena experiences. Now, it's not officially a part of the review, but just for fun, one of the fun things that we can do as an author, besides grabbing this random collection of traits and then seeing what we can make of them for a story as to how she got here, the next fun thing to do is to say, where is this the weakest? Where is this the most unstable? And how could we put pressure on Athena to throw her balance off? She thinks she's got it all together, but we know what she's missing out on. What could we do in her world? What could we give her, trials or tribulations that would make her reassess some of this? Or maybe we could give her another character who would show her another path. Why don't you try out writing the story? That's part of why we do these exercises. So that's all for today, and we'll see you next week with another character trait and the third part in a review of the character profile tool. Thank you. Bye-bye.